Good day, everybody. I'm Shmee, and today I'm back to show you all what it was like leveling up my character using only Blighted maps. If you're enjoying the content, please hit that like button and feel free to subscribe if you'd like to see more. You see, I'd been primarily focused on endgame bossing on my SRS Necromancer Skeletor. Because of that, I ended up building up a pretty nice cache of Blighted maps, and I just wondered what would happen if you leveled up a character using only Blighted maps for as long as you can. I mean, you'd have to lean pretty heavily on the towers for damage. It seemed like a pretty bad idea, but as soon as I had it, I just had to try it. After all, I'd saved up 53 of them to do. And just in time, I had the idea for this Poisonous Tornado Shot Ranger. Now, you can't enter a Blighted map until after you beat the campaign, so I still had to do that. But I sped through the campaign, and when I killed Kitava, I was level 70. Directly after that, before I even did my very first regular map, I jumped right into running through every single one of those Blighted maps that I'd collected. Now, before I give a TLDR of how it went, there's one thing I need to mention because it caused the whole experience to go a whole lot worse than it should have been. I made a big mistake with my build choice to try to do this. I'm playing a fragile, dead-eye glass cannon that struggles to deal damage through doorways and around corners. I didn't just have to lean on the towers for damage, but I had to depend on them entirely. And since most other maps that I'd farmed were red tier, I was almost consistently at or below the level of the map, and if I went anywhere near the enemies, they could just sneeze on me and I'd die. Because of that, overall, it was pretty rough. But there were a whole bunch of positives. I farmed up an absolute boatload of mid-tier currency, things like Jeweler's Orbs and Chromatics, as well as essences. And I also got a pretty decent amount of scarabs, though I think that may have had more to do with luck in terms of just getting the reward chests often enough. The biggest problem and the biggest downfall from the strategy that I had was that I just couldn't stop dying. There's really not much you can do when you're level 80 with mediocre gear against a tier 16 Blight boss. So while the experience that I would get out of it was great, the fact that I kept dying meant the experience that I would lose was pretty great too. So early on, when I was mostly having white and yellow Blighted maps, it went really well, but by the time I got to farming the Blighted red maps with a bad build for doing this, it just led to so many deaths that it was extremely hard to make any experience progress toward the end. So after doing 53 consecutive Blighted maps straight out of the campaign, I ended up with 28 wins and 25 losses, and I'd went from level 70 all the way up to level 84. I also got bit really hard by tower despawn. I kept getting these Blighted maps that spawned as a long corridor with two opposite lanes, and if you build your towers on one lane, getting it far away enough from the other side, the other towers on your other lane will despawn and turn off. As soon as that happens, you just get overwhelmed. By my count, 10 of those losses were because of map tower despawns like that. And this does happen, it's just rotten luck. But here's the kicker. Would I do it all again? Absolutely. Sure, it didn't go flawlessly, and yeah, boo-hoo, I had bad luck on a bunch of the maps, but that just meant it was actually challenging. Of all of my screwing around, the only thing that went poorly was the fact that I was using a pretty terrible build for the strategy. If I'd played Righteous Fire or Bone Zone or honestly pretty much anything else, it would have gone a whole lot better. And in a future league, I really want to try out this strategy with a build that's designed for it. I think the brutally honest summary of farming Blighted maps right out of the campaign and how it went was that the only thing it really optimized was fun, but it did that very well. And after I farmed all 53 of those Blighted maps, I was level 84 with a modest set of gear, so I just started farming. That turned into a bit of a struggle, and I hit a ceiling at level 88. Anytime you level a gear-dependent build like this, you're going to hit the same ceiling. Some really annoying internet issues added fuel to the fire, and that kept setting me back even more, but I just kept at it, and eventually I broke through. Now, the funny thing is, level 89 ended up being a huge deal. As soon as I broke through that level ceiling, suddenly tier 16s didn't really feel risky anymore. Doing crazy speedster pushes to get your blight encounter started before your delirium mirror expires, well, that was no longer a guaranteed death. After I broke through 89, leveling got really easy and I just sort of kept on chugging. In not too long, I was level 91 and I'm still happily farming up experience. Deaths are extremely rare. But there's one problem that I still haven't been able to fix. My bow is pretty painfully mediocre. Despite dropping an alchemy on almost every single normal thicket bow that I've come across, I still have not been able to find a decent one. Fortunately for us, this is where that blighted map strategy pays off. After all of the blighted maps that we farmed, we were sitting on a ton of essence. So I upgraded them to deafening, and now that we've done that, I have 5 shots at a solid bow. And on my very first try, I ended up with something pretty solid. I would prefer a 3rd elemental damage roll on the bow, but honestly, it ain't bad. According to the tooltip, it's about a 13% increase to our overall damage. Sadly, we are still sitting on a 5 link, but we're farming up juiced up tier 16s nice and comfy, so I think that's just the next ceiling to break through. Now I can get to work farming up some truly amazing gear and diving deeper into endgame mechanics, especially incursion. That way I can start doing things like dropping eldritch ichors on my gear as well as double corruptions. But that will have to wait until next time. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care, Exiles.